Welcome to Bigfoot
and the Bunny.
This is a couple's journey into the mysterious,
the unknown, and the paranormal.
I'm your host, Chris Carr.
And I'm your host, Kristen Johnson.
Together we are Bigfoot and the Bunny.
Right on. We are Bigfoot and the Bunny. Hope you guys are doing great.
Happy Saturday, and I'm Kristen Johnson, and
happy Saturday,
Chris Carr.
I am Chris Carr. Yes, some people would say, anyways. I hope you're all having a great week, and I wanted to give a special thanks to our friend Nathaniel Gillis, who came on as a surprise appearance on our Thursday show, talking about the disclosure to the Sun, which is a tabloid, and we were talking about that of the 1,574 pages of ATIP UFO phenomena, which included things like mysterious pregnancies and soot, which we talked about a little bit, and radiation burns. Very interesting.
Good Lord.
Yes. Well, we really appreciate him coming on last minute and talking about it, because that is his ballpark, and he's been talking about that stuff for years.
Yeah, so with all that coming out, he's actually validated.
We also want to give a shout out to our friends at the Wizard's Table.
Yes.
The Wizard's Table, which is Ken Allen and Mistress B, who have our very good friend, Seraphine Hurley, on today.
Yes.
That show will be on just after this one on Facebook. And if you're not familiar with them, look up Wizard's Table. I believe it's also on YouTube and Twitch. And that'll be great. We love Seraphine, as you guys know. She's been on our show many times, and great friend. And we love Ken. And Ken is actually going to be in town coming up at the end of the month. And I can't say a lot.
No, we can't.
A lot about what he's doing and all that stuff. But
we'll be
getting together, and we'll let you guys know about that. And definitely getting some great food, because we're in Rhode Island. And Rhode Island, if they're known for anything, is food.
Hello, Amory.
We know how to eat.
Yes, we
Amory
do.
Young will be coming out.
I have to tell you
this area
synchronicity that just happened. We were outside, and in the clouds, I looked up, and in the clouds there was a dragon's head. And I said to Chris, "Hey, look at this. There's a dragon's head up there." He goes, "I can't look right now." I said, "It looks wicked cool. You can see the horns and everything." He says, "I'm posting Amory Young's page, Rising of the Phoenix." As soon as I said that, I'm like, well, there's a freaking synchronicity right there. I'm like, that's wicked cool. I didn't have my phone. Sorry, I couldn't take a picture for you, Ann, but it was there. Trust me.
Also, I wanted to mention something about a couple articles that came through our various social media feeds this week. One from MSN about meteors and apparently the Space Force.
Yep.
Well, Space Force, and I love the
Netflix one. That is
love
so
the
funny.
Netflix comedy about it. However, what is the real one? Has been recording meteors coming down to Earth for thousands, logging them and keeping track. And one of them, I guess, a few years ago, if you haven't heard the story, it didn't seem to get a lot of press. Came from outside of our solar system and dispersed into the ocean, basically. It burned up, but it did leave debris. And this brings about the theories about panspermia.
I think there was more than one. So,
right. Of course, over time there were. Panspermia is a kind of funny word there. Pans and sperm.
Oh my
God. Oh my God.
Every show.
But what this really means is like things like outside of our solar system may have been what created life on Earth. That's what that theory is about. Apparently mushrooms and fungus can travel through space. Yep. Pretty much without trouble. In fact, the ISS has a mold problem. Right, which is very fascinating, right? They have an actual mold problem. Like being in space does not affect these creatures, and we may all be derived from mushrooms. Of which kind? I wonder. I don't know. I don't know.
Message of Seraphine early. No, I am not tripping over any gnomes. We have a running joke between her and I. So
Gnomes, you say?
Yeah, well, the little man in the house.
Do you mean like fairies, like the fae?
Yeah, Sure. We do.
Sure.
It's elementals. We have a little man running around the house. No lie.
Yeah, blaming the little man.
Hey, he's been here. I said this last year. So he's been here for a while.
Oh, okay. All right. But panspermia may be the reason why we are here. There's lots of legends about how humans came to be. There's still a sort of missing link between the monkey man and the intelligent or supposedly intelligent creatures that we are. If we were really intelligent, I wouldn't have to put the Ukrainian flag in that corner.
Sure.
But that's a whole nother story.
Don't even get me started.
Right. Well, our hearts still go out to those people.
Yes.
And we support them fully. However, that said, we have an amazing show for you. And we're really jacked today and psyched about doing this because
he's a good friend of ours.
He's a great friend of ours. And this is really through doing these shows, which is the beauty of this kind of work that we're doing. Like we make the coolest friends, and
we really do. We're so
our
grateful.
guest is certainly one of them. Her name is Gail Hayssen, and she will discuss her work with shamans, miraculous healings, remote viewing, dreams that help solve mysteries, and she will talk about what it was like to be a test subject for the scientific research in the field of metaphysics. Gail has had paranormal experiences since she was a teenager. She attended Woodstock. Come on. The original one here, not the 90s one, guys.
Yeah.
In 1969, appears in the Woodstock documentary and is featured in a recent book, 50 Years of Peace and Music. Today, in the research community, Gail is known as a telepath, psychic, remote viewer, someone who accurately sees distant or future events. The chapter on telepathy within Dean Radin's international bestseller, Supernormal, describes one of many successful paranormal experiments with Gail as a subject. She's been on our show before. We talked about a lot of things. In fact, just now we were saying, oh my God, look at all the things we talked about, because we both listened back to the original episode. And it was like, wow. All right. Yeah, we covered a lot of ground, from alien abductions to all sorts of things. So we had a blast. Let me bring her on. But before I do that, one of the topics we do want to cover that we brushed on the last time was her initiation into Mongolian shamanism. Mm-hmm. Jeez. Yeah, really, Chris? I'm going to say that the wrong way. Shamanism. Don't squeeze the shaman. Oh, do I need?
Don't.
I can't. I was starting at a low point, but there is something I wanted to show you guys. Some pictures of her and some pictures of what Mongolian shamanism looks like. And we'll bring her on and we're going to talk about that. And of course, probably a lot of other things. So let me play that for you. Welcome, Gail.
Hey, it's wonderful to be back here again with you guys.
It's wonderful to have you.
It is our pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yes.
We've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Months, yes.
And I hope that intro is okay. I hope that's all right.
That was a very beautiful journey there.
Absolutely. And it's a beautiful culture. The colors especially grab me. I don't want to say costumes, but outfits and the wear, the tools involved. And I know you've spoken extensively about this on one of our heroes, Jeffrey Mishlow's show. And I absolutely want to recommend that people look up New Thinking Aloud and catch those. Because you went into some of the tools, and one of the episodes just blew my mind. Showing the different objects and stuff. And I would like, if it's possible, to talk about what it was like to get initiated into that with the Mongolians and that culture and what brought that about. And
well, let's see. The last time we spoke, we talked about what the actual initiation experience was, which had happened here at our home. So if your listeners want to, if they want to re-listen to that, they can hear the actual things that occurred during the ceremony. How it happened was all because a visiting shaman from Mongolia was here, decided that she'd seen a lot of spirits around me and that I should be initiated into the Buryat Mongolian shaman tradition, which I found out that the Buryat, the color for that is yellow. And I had mistaken that it was a white shaman, but no, I was initiated as a yellow shaman, which there's different parts of the Mongolian shamanism where this is the part where this particular group, they follow Buddhism traditions in their Mongolian shamanic traditions, where someone from another group of shamans in Mongolia, they may be following the traditions of a different particular, some other different part of the culture. But this is particularly Buddhism mixed with shamanism.
Interesting. How far back do those cultures go? Do we know?
Thousands of years. When we visited the museum, in fact, one of the photos you showed was the head of a horse in silver, which is actually almost like, we kind of feel like it was like the Statue of Liberty of Mongolia, because you go inside the horse. And there's a museum there. And in the museum, because the horse is on a huge building, a huge pedestal, sort of round, giant building. And in that building is artifacts and things from the Genghis Khan era. Mm-hmm. And that's where I actually saw the little device to call spirit called the jaw harp. We call it a jaw harp, but Genghis Khan was actually using this during those times. And apparently each head of the army, like the different divisions in the army, they all played the jaw harp. And the jaw harp is known as an instrument to call spirit. And in those days, I think it was made out of bamboo and other, we see it now, it's mostly made out of brass, but in those days it was made out of bamboo and bone and other metals.
Oh, that's fascinating.
That really is.
And I've heard you talk about how that is how you do tune into spirits or a situation and get your mentally in a mode. And I think that's so interesting that it's tied to music. There's definitely a correlation between music and meditation and getting into a spiritual mode.
Well, I think when, like, certain times when I'm hearing David play piano, my husband plays amazing keyboard and piano.
Does he?
You can tell all of a sudden where you know that the musician person is going into a zone where they're playing, and you can hear that it just sounds different than the regular playing of the music. So I think music is something, and sound, for me, when I do shamanic things with people, it's all with sound. I'm not a musical person at all. I'm not like David, and I can't play any music, but there's something about sound, and then the way the brain waves and things work. I think all of this is what affects you. And also, like in a meditation, when you do chanting, when I've done, 12 hours a day of, sitting and walking and chanting meditation, the chanting meditation puts you in incredibly altered states, or maybe out of body. I don't know if that's actually the point. Maybe you're supposed to be in your body, but for me, I found those things make me go out of body.
No, I agree. There is something with music. I'm like a little bit like you with the frequency and the vibrations and just everything. I love the sound, and I have a big thing with music, and I love the shamanic chanting and some of the bells. Some of the frequencies, though, like are very high pitched, and I'm very sensitive to that. But everything else is.
But
just
music in general,
right.
I think sparks something in both of us, and we're very close to music. And I like to say I was a musician in a former life. I still play to some degree.
You are,
but I don't play like I used to, and I know what it's like Chick Corea used to describe music as playing like children, and you get into an improvisational jam and you just like go. And of course he was this amazing keyboardist who could play anything, but he wasn't thinking about it anymore, right? And science tells us that like dopamine and other chemicals are actually released in the brain when we listen to music. So if you're enjoying that music, it does take you to another level, and I think most people can relate to that.
It's funny that you're saying this because I was going to bring down. I have a shaman area in my bedroom that's like in what we call in the old days in a house called the dormer part, where it kind of extends out of your house, and you always have the peak like this on it. So in that area in my room, just shaped sort of temple-like, that's where I hang all my drums and have all my shamanic tools. And I was going to bring down my bells and a couple of other sound things to show you on the show. And then I said, I don't know what we're really going to talk about. So I only brought down the jaw harp and a pendulum, because I thought that might be something to share.
Oh, no, it's totally appropriate and it's no problem. And the jaw harp, that intrigues me because you're physically having this oral thing where you've got this tool in your mouth, and the resonation and how close that is to the brain, the body. Those vibrations, I think, must play some kind of role, more so than even our hearing,
I'll tell you what
getting
I've learned.
into that funk.
Because I didn't know anything about the jaw harp. They just gave it to me and I just started playing it. And for some reason, I had an affinity with this, which is unusual for me for anything musical. But what I've done in recent is that I can do this from here to Mongolia, because I can contact one of my Mongolian shaman friend teachers, and we play with each other so that we're on the FaceTime or whatever it is, that however we connect there on the computer. And so she'll play for a while for me and I'll listen to it, and then we record it, and then I'll play for a while and play back to her. And I discovered something, and then she told me, yes, that's how it works. I was playing with someone and we were doing, when I do shamanic things with friends or family, often it's with someone who's lost a loved one. And so I was doing this with them, and all of a sudden a new sound came out that I'd never heard of before. And it kind of reminded me of a Wile E. Coyote, a Looney Tunes cartoon sound where it goes boing, 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 like this. Well, I'll play it for you in a minute. And I was so joyed that I'd found a new sound, because I thought wow, I only know this sound and nothing else. I don't know what else I'm supposed to do here. So I've never been given any instruction on how do you play this. But as I speak to the shamans and we try to find, one of their young children will do the interpreting for me over there. Mm-hmm. They said you have to continue to play the jaw harp every day. And then all of a sudden, new sounds will just come. And that's exactly, I can't say I have a lot, but I've had one new sound that has come. And
I think that's true. Yeah, all musicians, like the more you learn your instrument, the more you find out what you can do with it, and the very subtle things make a real difference. I mean, I immediately think of like Jimmy Page taking the a bow to his guitar, the Les Paul, but there's very subtle things that musicians do, and that's what makes the difference between one guitar player or whatever it is they play and another. It's those subtleties, the things they learn and interpret and feel more than anything.
Well, I feel blessed, thrilled, honored, whatever, that since I don't have any particular instruction, that I could actually contact one of these shamans in Mongolia and say, this is what it sounds like that I'm playing now. Can you tell me, And that's when I've learned that there was a few things it's not just about calling the spirit. It's the way you use your tongue when you're using it. It's the way you breathe when you're using it. And those are the things that make those different sounds come. And then when you lose yourself into what I call the zone place, and the more breath that you have, or the longer that you can go with these things, which comes with the more practice that you do, the more interesting sounds and things that I hear in this. So I think it's going to be just a continual learning process for me. And I'm just going to continue following the sound. I do something now that I didn't do before, which is when I'm doing the jaw harp and the person is sitting there who's, say the name of their loved one is Rod. Whatever the name is of the loved one is, I start to speak it through the jaw harp. So this is my own new little thing that I've added in my little shamanic work.
Mhm.
And it seems to connect us very well to the spirit of that person. And that's when I kind of hear one or two lines of a message. And that's when I give it
Wow.
to the person.
Good Lord.
Well, it's
I
not
love
like
that. Just gonna
deep
put that out there. I think
things,
that's
you know what
so
I mean? It's just a few words. But there's something about saying their name through it. And I'm going to ask the shamans next. They've never told me to do anything like that. So I don't know that anybody does that. But for me, the Gail shaman, she's trying that out.
Well,
And it's
yeah,
working,
right.
obviously.
And it makes me think of things like automatic writing, or
Sure.
working with a pendulum or something like that, where it's coming from you, subconscious. Your subconscious is connected, and it's just coming through you. So
I have
you're
to
utilizing
say,
that as a tool and using a name and putting it through.
automatic writing. I have a piece right here, one page, if I could grab, if you'd want me to read it to you, of someone who did automatic
Sure.
writing. It's I think it's right there on the left, Dave. It's Sharon's poem. It's no, on the side there. Do you see to the left there? Is there a poem there?
Monet's Bridge.
Yes. It's called Monet's Bridge. And what it is my dearest friend Sharon passed away during COVID. And she lived in the town of Woodstock, and it was actually her babysitting money she paid me that I was able to buy my tickets to go to Woodstock with. So that's
wow.
how long our
Wow.
friendship is. And also it's a very deep friendship. And we've always been, connected to each other spiritually. And I had promised I would be there for her children, who are adult children, when she passed. And I wasn't able to because COVID then restricted you. In fact, her children, I had to encourage her daughter to be there and just stand at a distance so that she did not miss the opportunity of her mother being buried at the cemetery in Woodstock and have that completion. Even though it was only 3 people there, you needed to be there for this. And she went. And after they did the burial, she went back home and she went to sleep, and she had what she thought was a dream, but she couldn't really know. But she got up in the middle of the night, and I was the person she contacted about this, so I could let her know, yes, what really happened is called automatic writing, and there are books about this, and you can find out about it online, I told her. She said, all of a sudden, I got up and I took a pen and I started to write these words down. And she said, I don't write like this. This is not me. I can't even know where this came from. I said to her, it came from your mother. And she said, that's what it feels like. Like my mother was coming through and writing these words.
Wow.
And her mother was this amazing artist who back in, I don't know, because she would have been in her late 80s now, what year it was. But when she was 16, her first painting hung at the Brooklyn Museum of Art in New York. And it was the first thing you saw when you came in. She'd won some, young person, teenage art contest, and she'd do oil paintings of, water lilies and beautiful things. So this is a woman who always lived with art, and art was, she was a businesswoman who worked in New York City in the fashion design and designed, accessory boxes and packaging and that kind of thing. Well, I'm going to just read this because not only it's very short, not only is it amazingly beautiful, but when you think about what she wrote, you know that this was automatic writing.
It was a
And
connection
from
to
the
spirit.
other side. And it's called Monet's Bridge. A life is fragile, beautiful and perfect, alone, together, in a pond of water lilies. A masterpiece, the finest work of art, each life painted on a canvas of love. It's a short-lived gift. Explore all of your colors, for like Monet's bridge, we will cross to the other side. My paint has been set, preserved in your memories. Our time together so special. Please remember it all. Look for the water lilies. That is where I will be, peaceful, afloat, eternally yours.
Wow.
Wow.
It's her mom. That's
I love that.
I
beautiful.
think it's beautifully written. I'm sorry it brings tears to my eyes to read it because it's a true from the other side piece of what it's like there being transmitted through, a 40-year-old daughter who's, raising her child without her mom now to be grandma there. And it seemed like I don't think you could get a more beautiful message to be sent through you in the middle of the night than something and as poetic as that.
Right.
At the crux of that, she's saying she's part of nature.
Yes.
And that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with you now, I'm just part of the nature, part of everything that is your reality, really.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of these wonderful things that are happening because of people like you guys with all the different podcasts. And now I've joined your podcast world and I'm meeting all these amazing people and getting to share things like this with listeners that it may just touch upon or hit some wonderful thing for them to feel some kind of healing or some sort of information about something in their life, because people are sharing their stories, this internet thing has become an amazing way of sharing what's going on in each other's lives.
It is the best part of the internet.
Yes.
That people can share stories, that they can share experiences and things that are going on. There's a dark side to it all.
Evil,
with good comes bad. But
right.
at its heart, and things like what you do and what we try to do there is a certain beauty to it, and if it affects one person, changes their life in some way because they hear those words and it resonates within them, and then, that's it. It's worth the full price of admission right there.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So what I wanted to do, since we just talked about this sort of emotional thing, is I wanted to just play for your audience the jaw harp just for a minute, just for you to hear the sound. And I also wanted to play my new sound for it that you'll hear, which I say is sort of the Wile E. Coyote sound. So I'm going to see if I can do that one first. And I'm just going to close my eyes. And if you want to close your eyes or however you feel. That's my new sound.
Wow,
that was excellent, and we heard that.
Yeah, and I don't know if you're saying it in some way, but I hear Chris and Kristen through that.
Yes, I was.
And you said amazing. I heard that, and I was like, oh my God.
Well, we think you are amazing, and it is touching, and it's interesting. It's such an odd instrument to say, okay, I communicate with spirit with this, and from an outside point of view, they might look at that and go, "What that seems crazy," or something like that. But there it is; it's genuine, and it is the thing that connects you and gives you messages, and we love that. We love that.
I would actually like one. I think I'm gonna get one because I love that. I love it. Resonated just with me somehow. It's the vibration. I love it.
Well, I have a whole collection of them because they come in. I've often been given gifts from the Mongolians of the jaw harp, but the one that I found I like the best is this little teeny one. And I'm not sure. I think Vladimira might have given me this. I'm not sure if this was from Russia, Siberia, or Mongolia, but was from one of my shaman friends. I've been given other ones that they're just beautiful, that are bigger, different sizes. So, when you go online, look around it. I did get the traditional one that they sell at music stores. And yeah, that one I don't recommend as easy. Try to get the one that's more shaped like this.
Okay.
If you can.
Okay.
It's just
Thank you.
in my hand.
And it's shaped a bit, for those of us who will listen to this, because this will be an audio podcast, it looks to be brass. It's shaped sort of like a clothespin, I suppose. Would that be a good way to describe it? It has kind of a circle at one end, and
it has a circle at one end, and then this is the flexible band in the middle, and that's the part that's a different type of metal, and it's very, you can flip it. You have to be able to flick it with your hand.
Okay. Nice. It looks to be about 3 inches long or so, maybe 4.
With the flicker.
And just playing it, I find that playing it in nature, like I played it in Yosemite once in front of one of the falls, and a whole nother, it was like the most amazing, it just felt like an incredible connection with the falls, playing that together with the water pouring down. It was really magical.
It's amazing.
Don't forget to, hi, it's David. I'm still here.
Hey, David. David Levitt, this is
he was on the last show.
And one hell of a guy. And we also interviewed you. And so in our archives, you can find that.
Fun interview and learning both ways, and just loved it. I wanted to be sure Gail remembered, or that she communicates with animals as well. Maybe you should tell the horses story.
Forgot that great story about the jaw harp.
While I'm here, though, I just wanted to thank and congratulate you, because we're talking about sound and the opening of your show. I guess you said it might be new. It makes you shiver, and the bell-like sounds. I was absolutely thinking, I'm in the sky, I'm in the snow, I'm being led by Santa's reindeer.
Wow.
And it was twinkling so intensely, and the word reindeer, I was being quiet before the opening. It was on my lips, and Gail whispers to me, looking at your fantastic array of photos, including several beautiful ones of her, and she says, "Oh, that's a reindeer shaman."
Oh my goodness.
We didn't have to say a word.
Wow.
I felt like I was in a really good Elf 3 episode or something. I don't know. It was just really great. So I just wanted to let you guys go back and not forget all of the great.
Well, I'm glad he popped in, because he was on our last show, so we'll kind of keep doing this.
Yes.
Exactly. He was on the first show. We love that.
Yes.
And then we talked about augmented reality, which is, absolutely something that is going to be hitting people in a big way coming down the road. And it is in small.
Later this month, that's very mind-blowing, called Reality Construction Kit, and I'll talk about it next time I'm on.
Awesome.
Great. Wonderful.
Awesome.
Thank
Anytime,
you.
my friend.
Okay. So I'm glad he reminds me about the other use of the jaw harp. When I just had begun using the jaw harp, and I was just just getting involved with the Mongolians, I'm not sure what year it was. I think I'd already been initiated as a Mongolian shaman, because that was 2011. And this was a conference in Kansas called the Council Grove Conference, and it's been around for 45 years or something. It was founded by Elmer Green and a group of thinking people, I can't remember. And when I went to the conference, I saw that somebody had brought these horses with them to the conference, because the conference is in this huge, beautiful area that was originally. The reason it was called Council Grove, it was where all the Native American tribes would all come together, different ones, to have council and discuss whatever things they needed to discuss amongst themselves. And it had been given to the Boy Scouts of America or something. And so it was it was sort of kept where you can still go there. And they rented the space out for things like this conference. So there was plenty of room for these people to bring their therapy horses. And there were horses that are used for people. I'm not sure if people have heard about that, but where they have experiences where they might have a child that's having, autism. In fact, a woman went to the reindeer shamans in Mongolia, and there was a film made about it called Horse Boy, and her son was able to connect with the horse, and it helped in his healing progress, and he was able to progress a little further and be more communicative than he was prior to this with his autism. So I was there, and the horses were in their little pen out there, and everybody was in the conference listening to whoever the speaker was, and I just felt like I had to go out and play my jaw harp to these horses. So I figured horses are very big in Mongolia. These horses are going to like this. So I go to the horses, and I go outside next to them, and I'm playing the jaw harp, and there's nobody there. I see a tent nearby, and I figure nobody knows what I did. So I leave, and I go back to the building, and when I'm there, there's a man in a wheelchair who was a peacemaker from New Zealand, who was an amazing man, brother. I can't remember his name now, but anyway, really a beautiful soul. And I said, can I do my jaw harp on you? I just want to just give you a little sound healing. And he said, sure. So I'm doing the jaw harp on him as he's sitting in the wheelchair. And this couple comes up to me and says, are you the one that was out there by our horse playing this? And I said, yes, I did. I do something wrong? I'm so sorry. And she said, no. She said, we traveled a long distance from 2 states from here to get here with these horses, and they've never rested and they never slept. She said, as soon as you finished the jaw harp, we were in our tent. We looked outside the tent. You were gone, so we didn't know who it was, but our horses went right to sleep. And we'd been trying to get them to sleep for 2 days.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Wow.
Just thank you for putting the horses to sleep.
Wow.
So that was my animal jaw harp.
A very interesting subject in and of itself.
Yeah.
And I know in our first interview, we talked about an alien abduction, and that was really interesting especially because of the timeline. We were talking 1962, 1963, and like the idea of grays and these short grays with the big heads and almond eyes weren't really a thing right then, but it turned you off to like the whole phenomena.
Yeah.
You're like,
Well,
I don't need to cross that
was
bridge again.
We lived in a vegan commune in 1962. And this was a real commune, not a hippie type commune. So everyone had different jobs and different positions. Someone else was like the mother to me. My parents were worker bees. Everybody had their position there. So we would have guests every Sunday that would come from places in Europe, places around the United States, to come and give talks about health and fasting and garlic and wheatgrass and all the things that people do now that I heard about back then. And that, now I'm like,
Right.
know about wheatgrass again. And, one of them that came was a couple named Dottie and Al Haley, Haley. And it was something I never forgot because they lived in California, I think also, or I'm not sure exactly where it was, but they came to our event, but we also went, and my parents became friends with them. So we went to their house and visited with them. And he showed me as a 7-year-old photos of the ship that he'd gone away in, big colorful 8x10 color glossies of a flying saucer-like device, and telling me stories about whether he was crazy or not. I don't know. I just remember that there was no other person I ever met who told me stories about going off with a ship and going to see aliens and coming back and waiting to go off with them again. So that was how I got my first exposure. And then as a teenager, I had sort of a horrifying experience that sounded like things I heard later about these grays and the almond. I mean, that was my actual experience, but I didn't think I wasn't sure if it was a nightmare or what exactly had happened during it. And now I listen to your shows and all these other shows, and I'm finding out, that I've heard my story being told by other people having kind of weird sexual experiences and seeing kind of, like honeycomb places where people were all kind of put inside. I mean, I don't know. They were strange experience.
Yeah, it would take people like Whitley Strieber and John Mack and Bud Hopkins to kind of bring these kind of stories out that were talking to lots of experiences at the time.
So one of the things you and I, the three of us, talked about on that last show was also how I had been giving I was at a International Remote Viewing Association conference in Texas, and I was going to Hal Puthoff's house, and I mentioned that there was a woman in the back seat of my car, but I couldn't tell you who she was. I just remembered the story she talked about. Well, this last Wednesday, I went to celebrate my friend Russell Targ's 88th birthday, and I was bringing him lunch and having a wonderful visit with his wife and with my husband David. And I said to him, remember when we went on that ride and I was driving and you had some friend of yours in the back and she was going to go to France or somebody and talk to somebody who had been at Area 51 before he died because he was on his deathbed and la, la, la. And he said, yeah, that was Paula Harris. I said, I've been wanting to know that name all these years. I could not remember who this was. And he said to me, and I said, she said she was going to go meet this guy, interview him and write a book and all this. He said, well, yes, she did. And he gave me the book Wednesday, a couple of days ago. So here's the book. Have you seen this book before?
Not yet, no.
Okay, well, this is the book written by Jacques Vallée, who we know, we've heard his name many times because he's come and speaks. He was at Interval Research where my husband worked. He'd come to speak there and stuff. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so it's called Trinity, and it's by her and him, Paula Harris and Jacques Vallée, and it's the groundbreaking research and revealing a new UFO history because she gets the information directly, and you hear in here, she has the word-for-word conversations with the persons that were at these events. And,
I want it.
Yep.
Yes, on the back, she has comments from the former Minister of National Defense of Canada and the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence under Bill Clinton and George Bush. So, a lot of work, I believe, was done in this. But I was driving around in the car with this woman that I couldn't tell. I told you about it on your first show. So like if I had been on your show 2 weeks ago, I couldn't show you these things. So I'm just saying the timing is always
awesome.
Interesting. So you've got the full.
No, it's awesome. Jacques Vallée, we're very familiar with Jacques Vallée, mm-hmm. and certainly we have watched tons of speaking engagements that he's done. I mean, YouTube is a wonderful thing, and educated ourselves because he's so cutting edge, and that's so funny. Now he has the book out with the woman you were talking about.
So for our listeners, it's Jacques Vallée and it's Paula Harris, and it's called Trinity. That's
Trinity.
The book.
Yeah,
Trinity.
Yeah. You guys got to seek that out. If you're not familiar with Jacques Vallée out there in our audience, definitely look him up.
Yes.
If you're interested in ufology, because he is the current living leader in it, really, for, a lot of us. So that's fascinating.
It's an odd that it would fall in my hands to be able to share on your show today.
Exactly.
You're in the car with her.
Right. Oh, it's synchronicity, Gail. I'm telling you, everything.
There are so many things. There are things I can't even talk about on the air about those synchronicities that we talk about off air.
Yes.
It's crazy.
It really is.
And it's cool. It is really cool.
It's great.
Linda Judd has put out the link to that book.
Oh, thank you, Linda.
Trinity, the Best Kept Secret, basically found on Amazon.
So I have not read it. As I said, I just got it a couple days ago. Thursday, actually, he gave it to me. It's only Saturday. And I'm looking forward to reading it because I'm curious to hear what the people said that were actually there. And when it's your deathbed, I don't think you're going to be making up what you're saying. You're the end is here. And whatever truth you want to get out, you're going to say then.
Exactly.
So,
that's right. You're not putting up a show at that point.
Right. And
no matter who you are, you're like, okay. Yeah.
Exactly. So I find that very interesting. So I'm looking forward to reading that. And before we go back to the other things, I was wondering if I could share one other Russell Targ story.
Absolutely.
We were just talking about this.
We think Russell Targ is an amazing individual. And I know you have a fantastic interview with him on your podcast, which I need to say this a few times so people know where to find you.
Yes.
A small, medium, at large on YouTube. You can find Gail. Are you on other medias as well?
I think we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify.
It becomes an audio podcast and then goes out to pretty much all the outlets.
Yeah. And I think always the best thing is if they go to a small medium at large.co. That's my website. And that's how I got to re-listen to our show together, because all the shows I've been on and the shows I've done 17 podcasts now. So I have Dean Radin, Lloyd Auerbach, Russell Targ, Stephen Schwartz. So people in that, will know.
They're
those.
all amazing.
Yeah.
I've got all kinds of other
Really
characters coming.
Interesting and intense people. I really want our audience to become familiar with these kind of people and yourself, because they are really kind of like leading the edge of like what science says versus what you might just think about, say, paranormal investigating and what a haunting is. Parapsychology is a fascinating subject. Like I told you at the front of the show, we love Jeffrey Bigelow, and I've been listening to him for years. He's been around for a very long time. In fact, just the other night we were watching an interview with him with Arthur Young. It was quite dated. It was an old interview, and his questions were so good, and he was just so articulate and following what he was saying, which was a complex subject at the time.
He's an amazing, beautiful man and very brilliant. And I had accidentally or synchronistically, whichever way you want to look at it, had booked him to be on my podcast before I knew that he was in a contest called the Bigelow contest. And the number one prize for the Bigelow contest was $500,000. And it was all put up by this man who wanted the researchers and scientists or people around the world to submit an essay about whether there's proof of life after bodily death. And so all these different people submitted the essays. I think it got limited down to maybe 160. I can't remember. I don't know for sure. But Jeffrey Bigelow won the first prize. And it was the day before our scheduled podcast show. So we got to release it for the first time ever for everybody to hear that he had won this prize. And I was so thrilled because, first of all, it's his life's work and he deserved a life's work achievement award. And so I couldn't think of anyone more fabulous and deserving of this.
Oh, we agree.
Yes,
we agree. And then, so people know that's the Bob Bigelow of Bigelow Aerospace.
Right.
Has
had Skinwalker
equipment
Ranch
on ISS.
Yes.
Owned Skinwalker Ranch, bought it in the 90s when it was considered just a haunted place. And I know he sold it since, but he owned it for the majority of the time that Skinwalker Ranch is known.
Yep.
And a very fascinating character in and of himself.
Yes.
To even have this award. So
he's brilliant.
I had another podcast interview also that won. Nick Cook, who writes aerospace. He wrote for journals and things, and now he's writing about consciousness. So Dean Radin had sent him to me to talk about shamanism. So we met, and then he told me, yes, and he sent me his essay, and he mentions about a California shaman, which is me, he said, in his essay. So I got to be mentioned in the little Bigelow essay. I was so thrilled. And he won a prize. So when he was flying from England to Las Vegas, it was Jeffrey's 75th birthday, the day he received the check. So this was also a very happy moment. And I told him, I said, you must meet my friend Nick Cook, and the two of you get together. So they did a show. And so everything it's a little pond ripple thing. It's very sweet.
It
really does.
It is so amazing how that works out.
So the one thing I wanted to add was I feel like I'm on part 2 after I listened to our show, which was really almost a year ago. I think when I was on, it's as close to a year.
Yes,
because I think it was July or something. I'm not sure.
Right. We've gone through a lot. And you built your podcast. It's out there. It's getting a lot of views. And you have really interesting guests like Russell Targ. And actually, let me share the screen because I've got it right here.
We have 800 subscribers now since September. So that was like a big thrill.
Just amazing.
Absolutely.
So last time on your show, I talked about this particular device and how. Oh, great! There they go. Oh, there they can
There
see.
you go. You know, and Ellie Molina we had Ellie, and I think you were on. She was on your show like the next week, and you had some brilliant points with her, and I was like, I wish I had said that. It was so cool.
Lloyd Arbach and
you can see we've watched a lot of these.
Yes.
I'm so glad.
Lloyd Arbach,
all of them.
we have coming on, and but amazing people. Jeffrey Dean Radin, professor at the Institute of Noetic Science, IONS, that we mentioned earlier. Some of these are probably been played twice, and that's why it shows that. It's because I watched them entirely. And
we also have Bigfoot and the Bunny that we watch it on. So we're on Dark Horse Paranormal.
That's right. We have different accounts on YouTube and stuff, but we've been following you for quite a while. And we really want our audience to go and check you out at Small Medium at Large. YouTube gives the worst links. I don't know why they can't go YouTube/Small Medium at Large. We have the same problem. We have a page on there, Dark Horse Paranormal Productions, and it is like 300 characters that nobody could ever remember. It's like code breaking. We need the Wind Talkers to come and figure that one out.
Well, that's so nice of you to put that up like that. I'm just learning. It's just a learning process. And we started off, I would have never been able to do the podcast if I didn't start with Michelle Freed from LITM Media, because I never thought I would do a podcast. What am I going to do doing a podcast? And she kept saying, no, you're a natural. You're going to be good at this. And so without her encouragement, I really would have not gotten that far. So I'm really grateful for her helping to launch me to do something I never imagined. Why should I be doing? And now that I'm doing it, I love it so much. And she kept saying, just do 2 shows a month. And that's all I'm doing. That's the right amount for me. I'm not expanding to more shows. I'm very happy. And then I'm occasionally on someone's show if they happen to call me. But what happened is my family decided to take over for me, so that since I have really nothing to sell in a business or anything, it was really great for my family to jump in. And she's so busy with all the shows and things she's doing. I'm sure she was happy for me to be set free.
Well, that's great. And we love Michelle too. Yeah. She is our mutual contact and how we actually met. So we're grateful for that.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
We're grateful for that too.
And she's been a great impetus to our own show, with providing wonderful guests and
it's nice
making us just feel like, all right, we got to up this a little bit from maybe where we were. And,
right.
We do remote viewing mentorship sessions and things of that nature that are wonderful.
Right,
So.
she has a lot to offer besides those other things. And so what happens is now my son does the production, my daughter does the posting. It took many people to replace what she was doing, but and then my husband does all the description writing and the titles so that they have commas and correct spelling. And I figure I do the job of getting the person doing the interview. And we've got it down to where we all do it together in one day, passing the next thing to each other. And the job is done. And it's a very happy podcast experience and no pressure on us. It's 2 days a month that we have to focus on getting it ready for the viewers. So
Sure.
I just want everyone to know it's a joy.
I understand. We squeeze this stuff in. We do it because we love it and we're passionate about it. It's not making us rich. We have to do other things. But do we enjoy it? Do we love spreading the message? Do we love giving a platform for people to hear something they would not hear in normal media? Absolutely.
And you meet people like Anna Marie here that's on your show. I've had just the nicest comments and things from her. So I feel like I don't know her personally, but I feel like she's part of my fan club. And
she's like family. She's family to me. So her sister married my cousin and we went to school together. We grew up together. So
and we hang out occasionally.
Yeah. So when
she doesn't live close by, but when she's in town, we get together. We went to Salem last year, and
I'm just saying, prepare for David and I's visit because we're coming to see you. I have the airplane tickets.
We're looking
October,
forward.
right?
We love that.
End of October, beginning of November, we'll be there.
Okay,
and
awesome.
you're the only people I'm making a special trip and go out of the way for to see.
Oh, so sweet. Thank you.
We can't wait because there's been a lot of virtual hugs, but I need a real one.
Yes.
I want a real hug. So I wanted to say that on our last show, I showed this device and told this story about how Russell Targ likes to call me every now and then with these, I've got something in my hand. Can you tell me what it is? Close your eyes. Yeah. And I tell him what it is. So in that one, it was like I said, it was like a sparkle thing, but it's on the other show.
Yes.
So he called me again since our last time together, and he asked me to describe something. And I came up with this description. I'm going to just read a couple of the description for you, and then I'll show your audience the item, and I'll try to pronounce it. But I said it felt like metal, and it was yellow and sort of bright. I said it was like a crystal energy. And then I'll show you, I drew a little oval-shaped little thing, looks like a sideways cigar or something. I said, all these lines are the same. And I kept repeating to Russell, the lines are all the same. And that it seemed like it could possibly, because we have something that they call AOL, which is analytical overlay, that sometimes you say something, but you're not, it's not that object, but you say it.
Your brain
drives me
trying to make sense of the data.
Right. And so for me, it was a bright religious sort of a symbol. And that it reminded me of like a bright heart with all equal lines coming all around. So here's the symbol of the heart with the lines coming around. And then here's the drawing. You see the tubular, I can't tell there it is. You see the tubular drawing? Mm-hmm. That like that. And and I'm saying it's metal, it's yellow, it's bright. So it turns out it's this metal, all same-sided thing called
it's a
icosahedron.
Yes.
Icosahedron.
And every side is the same. And you'll notice the little tubular thing I drew looks just like one of these little tubulars. Mm-hmm. You make it go straight.
That's true. Yes.
Right, like this.
Yeah.
The pieces.
And if you look at it, it does remind you of a crystal in the sense of looking how crystals are formed.
Yes.
And it's actually an ancient symbol that is used in religious or spiritual things in the days of Greece, or so. I don't know when or exactly the story, but when you started to read up about it, it was like what I was describing as the essence of this piece. So when I had lunch with Russell on Thursday, he gave it to me so that I could have the piece that.
That's awesome.
Just like he sent me the colorful, lights. He said, when it's 99.9, he sends me the object. And I just wanted to express the joy of doing this with him on these kind of spontaneous, and for him, I always come through. It just the way our relationship is and the way he conducts himself. I don't know. It always works. So I just want to say I'm really happy about our special relationship. And I wanted people to see that, yes, you can describe something over the phone without doing anything in particular.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. And that's interesting too. One of the things we talked about was like whether you're reading people's minds and what did it mean to get a set of numbers or an address and name of a person to tell who they were, what were you actually gathering. That's very interesting. I think maybe we should let our audience also know about Russell Targ if they're not familiar. Russell Targ was one of the people that put together the Stargate program. He's a brilliant mind in parapsychology and has been for a very, very long time, working with the Stanford Research Institute. He's accomplished a lot of amazing things. Yes, you have an interview with him on a Small Medium at Large podcast if you want to learn more. But Third Eye Spies was his documentary that came out a few years ago. And I know we talked a little bit about that on the last show. Mm-hmm. Fantastic documentary about remote viewing.
Well, he's coming out with another book I have the manuscript right here. I'm not going to hold it up because it'll be his. I want to have him on my show to announce the new book. But he's an incredibly accomplished man who called up one day and said, I've got another book idea. And in 3 months, wrote a book, has a publisher, and it's on its way for the, reviews right now. I said, for some man who's 88 years old, whipping out another book in 3 months, and I'm still sitting on mine for 20 years. I said, this is an amazing accomplishment. And I said, you're just an inspiration. He continually inspires me.
He does. 88 years old, and
It's
he's
amazing.
Constantly working. He doesn't seem to stop.
No, and also
I've
that was
seen him
another
on
thing.
your show. I've seen him on other particular shows. I think that he just likes and comes out, talks about these things. He seems continually busy. He worked with David, your husband, to make those applications that we talked about.
Yes.
Yes.
Stargate application that is available, and
I love that
grab
thing.
my phone.
I'm doing great with that thing.
I know we plugged these last time, but they are really good applications. and
ESP trainer.
people should know about them.
The
Right. ESP trainer was the first one, which is this, and it kind of looks like Simon.
Yeah,
a
that's
little bit,
ESP trainer.
if you
I
pick
love
the
that.
right one,
Yes.
there's a picture behind it. Also,
I made the rounded edges on the squares for that.
did you really?
Wow.
I didn't make them. I just said I like rounded, not squares.
Well, the
So
opinion
it
matters,
changed.
for sure. And Stargate, which is also on here, if I can find it. Here it is, Stargate ESP. I got a little pop up with it. These
And
are
that
free
gives them-
applications.
Yeah.
By the way,
It's
guys.
more of a real remote viewing experience because there's the photo targets, just like you do in a remote viewing.
That's right. You're
for
trying to find
selections.
what the photo means. You're asked if there are questions. Is there water? I'm going to say water. Are there mountains? It asks. And I'm going to say, all right, we'll go with yours. And now I'm presented with 4 different pictures to let
Mhm.
people know. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. All of which have mountains. You don't
You're
want to pick
welcome.
one. You got to tap on one. We'll see if we get it right. We get them wrong sometimes, so it's okay. No judgment here.
No.
No, it was this one I tried. Oh, shit. I hit the wrong one.
Okay, we hit the wrong one.
I
but
hit the
there
wrong
it-
one, but that was the one I
There it
wanted.
is. And it basically tells you if you got the right thing and what you got right in the photograph. And it trains your mind to think in these ways, which I think is sort of an unfiltering. Your gift that you have, and you're just so
Yes.
naturally adept at these kind of things. Do you ever feel that? Do you feel like the brain tries to manipulate, use a form of pareidolia, if you will, to change the data that's coming in?
I think that the mind always comes in with something else. And that's why these 2 programs teach you how to listen to the other voice, not the voice from the brain, but the voice from whatever you want to call your higher consciousness, or the part that has no time and space.
Mhm.
That's the voice that's giving you the right information. The other's giving you information to sway you down a different path, because it associates, that's why, like they say with the AOL, with the analytic overlay, you're looking at something and it may be a bridge, but they don't want you to say bridge. They just want you to draw what a bridge might look like and then determine after that if this is a bridge. Because when you say the bridge, then you've immediately attached to like the analytical part of the mind.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Rationalization.
it'll just keep showing and flashing bridge,
Yeah.
bridge. And that's when you have to put it down, take a break. And yeah.
And also,
Right.
when I don't listen to that inner voice, then I kick myself later, because that's the one that said, pick that item up. You need to bring that where you're going. And then you get there and they say, oh, I need this item. And I'm saying, I heard myself say to go get it. And I knew I should have listened, and I didn't. I kept saying, why would they want that? You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's when, when you have to, I always make note when I've made my errors, so that I remind myself, oh, you should have listened to that other voice, not to the one that said, why would they want this?
Right.
Absolutely.
That's
Just a couple of comments from our audience. Our conversation is so interesting that I'm sorry I have not delved into all the questions that have been out there. I do apologize. Amory Young, again, she says, we're all going to be ghost sisters scaring the crap out of each other.
Sent me the meme the other day, and you go, "Oh, okay." Underneath it, I got it. Yeah, that was great.
And let's see. Linda Judd says he had help from above to help write so fast. Wonderful. We have a t-shirt. Part of me has no time and space that I'm trying to catch up. Sorry, guys. I know these are out of space and time from when we were talking about these subjects.
Oh, I like that.
Sandy
t-shirt.
Griffin says, shucks, I missed a lot. So we'll definitely catch up on
hi,
replay.
Sandy.
Hi, Chris, Kristen, and Gail. Hey, Sandy. How's it going? Thank you so much for joining us.
My computer melted down again. So,
Yeah,
guys,
yeah. Sometimes you're just going to close it, let it go.
Yep. Give me a minute or 5 minutes or whatever. It's a mind of its freaking own.
Spinning back around to the shamanistic experience, if we could.
Was another synchronicity, and I feel kind of funny, but telling your audience, after I do a show, I never listen to it because I don't know. I don't want to hear the sound of my voice. I criticize myself. I do all these other things. So I never listen afterwards. But then I realized, wait a minute, I should have done this yesterday. I didn't listen to the show I did with them. It's almost a year ago. And I don't want to repeat these stories. So
we did exactly the same thing today.
Yes.
With
as I'm finishing it, I realized, oh no, I don't want to say this, but I said, but there's things I need to tell them about what happened. Right. And there was one more story there. And then I think I've covered
the film crew.
Yes, the film crew.
Yes.
So when we were talking about Mongolian shamanism and the shaman Zagda that was here, I think might have been her second time in the United States, or it might have been her first. I'm not sure. But she came back to my house after the actual shamanic initiation. She'd already gone to Chicago or did whatever, and then was back in the Bay Area before she was leaving back home to Mongolia. And she said, I want to come up to your place with some Mongolian people. And she came up with 30 Mongolians. And for whatever reason that day, because it was spontaneous, there was nobody here at the house except me. So these 30 Mongolians arrive, and I live in an orchard, so I have 15 acres, and there's a big redwood tree, which she had initiated me under. So she had all 30 Mongolians dancing around my tree, holding hands and singing these most beautiful Mongolian songs. And there was all different ceremony, and she was doing cleansing on each of the people there. One person was dealing with some alcoholism. She had done intense whipping on this man, and I checked on his whereabouts a few years later, and he still was sober and clean since that one day of the whipping. So it had really altered his alcoholism and changed his life and got his health back. So I'm just saying there's actual positive results I've seen from the work of these shamans, specifically this one, Zagda, when she was here. And she says, and mind you, this is 2011, so we're talking 11 years ago. That's part of the weird synchronicity of this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 11 years ago, and she had said, I'm bringing up a filmmaker with me, and he's going to be filming the dancing and the songs and everything for Mongolians, for a Mongolian documentary on shamanism. And the fortunate experience I had with that was that I got to sit, and I spoke about this in our last talk, I got to have a translator there to tell me how did she telepathically understand me and how we got into each other's heads. And she had described that she would think about something and then she'd visually see me inside her brain, and we would discuss it, and then I would produce whatever it is she asked for.
Oh my gosh.
So I got to know that only because of this film crew, because they were doing an official fancy interview. And, they came with all the fancy lights. And we were doing this into the night. So we were doing this in the darkness. Well, it was posted on YouTube. And because I have that wonderful tech husband, he was able to somehow take it, wherever it was, he was able to take it and put it somewhere on my computer. So I have 5 minutes worth of that actual 2 hours of filming. And it's an amazing little piece, and and it shows him interviewing the two of us. And I never knew how to find him again. So when I started doing the podcast, I was cleaning up my desk and a Post-it note fell out. His name was Mr. Suki, because we noticed that all of a sudden, a year or two later, everything was gone. You couldn't find any of the film footage. You couldn't find anything on YouTube. What happened? And I misunderstood. I thought the Mongolian people were upset that an American had been turned into a shaman. I was thinking somehow it's my fault. And that they made him take the piece down. So that was my own idea of all those years. When I see the Post-it note, I said, I'm just going to call the number. I know it's been, 10 or 11 years, but maybe he's still there. I called the number, and this is a year ago. I call the number, and it's Mr. Suki. And I say to him, do you still have that footage? Because I would love to see what happened and why it was removed from the, being on the air. And he said, no, it wasn't it was something to do with the school, because he was a student at the University of San Francisco, UCSF. And there was something about in the program that he was not allowed to post that work that way or something like that. He was able to do whatever he wants with it, but during the school thing, there was something about the school in it. So he said, well, I don't know where it is, but I have it somewhere. I said, well, if you find it, I'd love to have that, because I don't have that kind of footage. A year goes by, and 2 days ago, I was on another interview with Jeffrey Mishlove on the New Thinking Aloud. Yes. And before I set everything up, I unplug everything. And the second that I plugged my house phone back in, it rang. And this is just on Wednesday, a couple days ago. And it's Mr. Suki.
Come on.
And he says, it took me over a year, but I found the film footage. I left it at a friend's house, and I found it. And he said, and I want to bring up Mongolian shamans to meet you. There's one that's living here in the Bay Area, and there's one visiting from Mongolia. And we want to come up and do ceremony and film and talk and be with you on April 24th. Are you available? Can we come at 11 o'clock? I said, of course,
Sure, come on by.
I come at 11 o'clock. And so the fact is, it's just that this happened 11 years ago. Only 2 days ago, he's found the film.
Finally.
Wow.
That's great, Gail. I love that story.
I love
it. This shows that we did 3 parts, 3 series on Jeffrey Mishlove's about the Mongolian initiation and Mongolian shamanism, which still I couldn't cover everything I could possibly say, but they've been watching it in Mongolia now. So they're watching New Thinking Aloud there and my YouTube. Great. So I'm feeling good about expanding our horizons here.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Absolutely.
We watched every single one of them about how you got initiated. And you had all the different things like the jaw harp and the bell, and you had your the gear on. I don't know, what did you call it? What's the name of it?
Oh, it's the pendulum.
No, you had the initiation, the hat.
Oh,
clothes
with the eagle feathers. Yeah.
Yes, it was absolutely beautiful. If anybody wants to see that, it's on Jeffrey Mishlove and New Thinking Aloud. And Gail's, you're on part 3, right? Coming out with this part 3?
No, that we finished all 3. Now I've moved into my experiences with the Huichol Indians in the mountains of Mexico.
Okay. Right, which is a very interesting story in and of itself.
Yes.
Right.
And I do recommend our listeners go check that out.
This is a Huichol bag, a little miniature Huichol bag.
Nice.
They are very reclusive, getting up to those mountains and those areas where they live as, lack of a better term, as a white person coming out of America is not necessarily recommended, right? I mean, you just don't just go strolling in there.
Well, right. You can't. You're not allowed to. You have to have permission from the governor of the Huichol people to go there.
It's a process, and it wasn't necessarily a safe process.
No. It's anything. When I look, I'm going to be 67 next month. I'm so lucky to be alive. I mean,
Lord.
If my children did any of the kinds of things that I've been done through my life, I'd be sitting here terrified, worrying to,
Sure.
will I ever see them again, But
So our listeners know this isn't Mongolia. This is within Mexico.
Yes.
this is
And
way up in the 10,000 feet in the Sierra Madre Occidental mountain range
of Mexico.
Do not go
Yes,
there.
yes.
Unless you are invited.
Yes, and even then you want a little bit of protection from bandits and certain things. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Comments out in the audience here. Mongolia, your life has been blessed with so much adventure.
Yes.
Love your shares.
Oh.
Sandy Griffin asks, Miss Hayssen, have you ever been heard of the Mongolian band, the HU?
Not only have I heard them, but they played near here and I wasn't able to go, and I really wished I could have seen them live. But they are, if you guys haven't heard them, they really combine shamanism sound and sound of modern. I mean, it's an amazing young, old, whatever kind of music. It's incredible music. It's fabulous, that band. In fact, I told my Mongolian friends about it when they hit the United States, and some of them had not heard about them in Mongolia yet, and they are incredible.
Great question, Sandy. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Sandy Griffin.
Can you tell us a little bit about just the Mongolian culture and what it was like to be working with them? I know we talked about being initiated, but what it was like living up there a little bit before we go.
Well, my relationship with the Mongolian people feels more like family than it would have been, say, the first time that, if we were talking about the first time I met them. So now I feel like a deep, close involvement where they're my family friends. They're not just like friends. So my dear friend Tugi, who is my best translator, and he was the first translator who we met in the first trip. He, actually his second trip, he just brought his daughter to go to college at NYU, and all my family lives in New York. And so when she started her first semester a couple of years ago, she met my cousin and my aunt, and he met my uncle. And, even though I wasn't there, I introduced them to this wonderful woman, Karen. And all these people pitched in and helped out when COVID hit and his daughter was left alone in Manhattan and they closed the dormitories. And where was she going to go? This girlfriend of mine, who was the woman who produced the Woodstock 50 yearbook, that's how these things all connect so bizarrely.
It's crazy.
She had said, "Oh, of course we'll take her in." And she took her in for 2.5 months to live with them in their little teeny apartment in the Lower East, the West Village or the East Village, and then upstate New York, where she helped them with their, they would doing chickens and whatever. And she lived there with her daughters and them. It's not like these people knew each other. They took her in with open arms. I had relatives who said if we had more than a studio, we would be happy to help her out, but we're too, we have no room for our own selves. But there's this deep sort of connection of feeling like anytime they come here, that's any one of those family, we want to meet each other or see if we can do anything to help each other out. And I believe next year they'll be coming for 1 year for his daughter to be entering into a special high school. So we're in constant communication with each other. So when I'm thinking about a shaman thing and I don't know the answer, I can text him right away and he'll tell me what that means or what the significance is. So it's not like I don't have like I feel like my connection both with the Huichol people and with the Mongolian people is family now. It's a long-term relationship. It's not something that, we had this special thing and I'm talking about the history of it. No, it's my Huichol Indian friend is here right now visiting me and helping me out with all my crazy, yard and things and whatever I need some help with. My Mongolian friends are there for me. I've been trying to get my own yurt from Mongolia sent here, but the same thing happened with shipping containers there where they had no access to them. And so they have not been able to ship the yurt here for me. but they picked it all out. They had it all ready, and I want to set up a special spot I already showed them the spot. They were here, and so it showed where you can look out and see the mountain and all over the view here. And that I wanted to be there for whenever Mongolians want to come, that they would have a place to do ceremony if they're visiting, or they're in the Bay Area and some shaman comes, there'll be a place if they ever want to come. And I would fill it up with all the amazing Mongolian things they've given me over the years of beautiful items. They're a very caring, I don't know. My relationship with them is very deep and very caring and very loving. Like when I was there and I was sick, they couldn't do enough to help me when I was sick because I drank too much vodka, Right. But they were so gracious about all of it. You didn't feel so bad,
Yeah.
And when they come to my house, I see somebody wearing my slippers or something, it just, I don't know, it just warms my heart so that our relationship is, and we share in each other's families. So my children, I've brought them to meet their children. Their children have come and stayed here and stayed in my son's house with my son because they're the same age. So it's a very long, I want my dream would be that, of course, my relationships with these people last till the end of my lifetime and beyond.
I'm sure.
The bond is strong.
Yes.
The bond is strong. And that reminds me, I know last time we were, we've messaged each other, of course, since, but when we talked, we were both going through kind of a tough time with loved ones that were transitioning. Mm-hmm. And it reminded me, playing back the show that we did before, the year before, we talked a little bit about reincarnation. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if your thoughts have changed or deviated. We talked a little bit about consciousness. If you don't mind, could we talk about that? I know we're getting close to the hour and all that, but what reincarnation might mean to you within the Mongolian traditions and all the traditions that you've been exposed to. How do you feel about it?
Well, like our dear friend who was here and lost his wife and brother in a 3-week period, just due to violence and things that have happened in Mexico. I don't want to go into the whole sad story, but
I'm sorry.
There's some sort of like, it feels to me like when I've been with my friends in these other cultures and there's death, there seems to be an easier letting go than I feel like in our culture. That's my own interpretation. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. But that's how it feels like when I'm with them, that the deep grieving kind of like, it's almost like that they're really sure in a knowing way that, like my dear friend's wife, like that she's in a better place. And it's with such a knowingness that I don't feel like they doubt that. Or do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I feel like when they're talking about it, they're not thinking like, oh yeah, my wife is gone, my life is that. It doesn't seem like that. It's more like, oh, she's in the better, she's gone to a better place. Maybe I'll be joining her. I don't know exactly what their interpretations are, so I can't really speak about it, just that I've been there during the times of death with the Huichols. But with the Mongolians, I've not been there when they have died, but there are people that I know there who have died since me knowing them, like my first shaman, Zorix Batar, who was killed in a car accident, him and his beautiful daughter, who had sat on my lap for my whole journey of 2 weeks driving around in a Russian van there. And she was the most beautiful girl, 16 years old. And his wife survived. And his wife is carrying on. She became a lawyer. It seems like around death, the people seem very strong in their life. It doesn't seem like they're debilitated in grieving. I don't know if they feel it's reincarnation, because there's a lot of Buddhism in Mongolia.
Yes.
So I would think that there probably is. I have to say my feelings is I do believe in reincarnation, but I don't know what we're reincarnating into, when or how. I just feel that consciousness lives on because I've done too much mediumship work where I know I'm connecting to the spirit of a deceased person. And I don't know if I'm connecting to their invisible or their consciousness or the silver cords or the threads or the Akashic records. I don't know. I just know that I'm not connecting to some fake imaginary thing that, and
We agree.
Right.
Yeah.
also it seems like when you meet children and other people in life, like sometimes you can just feel like you'll see a kid, they may be 8 years old or 10 years old, and say, that's a very old soul. That child seems to have information and wisdom beyond the years of somebody who's 10 years old. Things like this, when you hear stories, of course, in Buddhism, they tell you all the stories. They know it's their bowl from a lifetime before, so they know that they're reincarnated into this particular monk because they recognize the objects. I don't know. To me, sometimes it feels like when I have a psychic connection, like that's really deep with a complete stranger, like this guy, Tom, that I spoke about in different sessions, about somebody I never knew before comes to me as a contractor, and yet I know all these things about the guy and all these things about his life. And anytime something's happening to him, I'm feeling it.
Wow.
When I have things like that, it's hard for me not to think, did I know him in another lifetime? Or where did all that information just come? Or so the same things like when they say, oh, you meet someone and there's the spark and you know that you're going to be with that person, or you see them in a crowd in a party or a room and there's some kind of that makes you come together. And it doesn't necessarily mean a sexual thing. It can just be meaning you just really feel like a close something.
Right.
Sure.
I don't know.
Absolutely.
That's us.
So, I'm not dead yet. So
We don't have the full story.
right.
Oh, yeah.
We wonder, when we talk to a disembodied spirit, what it's like. Is it really that person? Is it their consciousness shifting, taking time to come back? And certainly we go forward into some other life. There's so many stories, so many little hypotheses for different variations on that subject, coming back as some other creature or something like that, taking a rest and being a cat for a lifetime or something like that. You wonder, like, all right, what is it? All we can find out is that there definitely is something beyond the physical body. There is a consciousness that does live on.
Yes.
Beyond the meat bags, the vessels, we like to say, and on a bad day, we're a meat bag. On a good day, we're a vessel. All of that. So we appreciate your insights, having
thank you.
Such a good look at that and having those experiences. I don't know. There are so many directions we can go in, but our show would probably be like 10 hours long.
Yeah, more than that.
And I'm sure, we all have to eat and do things. Eventually go on with our lives.
Consciousness, that's the only one that I feel like a very strong conviction or something like that's, I'm sure consciousness goes on. I mean, that's the only thing I feel, and I can't give a weight to it or a physical item to it or anything like this, just that there's something about consciousness living on. And I want to leave you with a question that I asked on a show I was on in regards to UFO things, which was, is there consciousness with the person, whatever it is that's being contacted, that's on these different shows that people are having with UFO, discussing it with people? Is there been something discussed about a consciousness in the contacts or whatever that they're making?
Well, consciousness is kind of the pinnacle, I think, of a lot of the research. We're trying to point it out in the paranormal research, but ufology has been looking at this for a while, right? With people like John Mack and Jacques Vallée. They talk a lot about consciousness in their writings. And I think it applies to all these things. It applies to different cultures. We also think that there were cultures and civilizations that existed way before the ones that we know
Yeah.
of now. And like slowly the evidence trickles in. We drips and drabs. Okay, Göbekli Tepe is supposedly older than the hunter-gatherer civilizations. We started off the show talking about panspermia, which is the idea that something outside of our solar system hits Earth and grows. And that may be the cause for life here from some other developed civilization. We don't know. These ideas sound wacky. They sound a little out there, but science is slowly creeping along in that direction, and you can't ignore that.
I just wanted to let you know while we're talking about this, I just got poked. Someone poked me in the back. So that's what I've been sitting here trying to figure and debunk. I'm like,
So
but there's nothing there. So we're talking about different bodies. All right, well, I'll just go with it. So any of you see anything, anyone behind me, please let me know, because I can't see anybody.
Anne-Marie Young says, absolutely wonderful show and beautiful people.
Thank you.
And lots of great comments out there. Thank you guys. We love you all.
You guys.
And
Sandy,
of course, as
Joshua.
always, stay with us too before we
yes
send, because we wanted to talk a little bit real quick. Gail Hayssen.
Absolutely.
Small, medium, and large. Look it up on YouTube. This podcast is fantastic. We watch all the episodes.
Yes, we do.
We love you. You're a wonderful person. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Excellent. Thank you. And that's all the time we have this week for Bigfoot and the Bunny. I hope you enjoyed our show. Please look up Gail. She is great. Seriously. And also go back in our archives, wherever you're watching us. Most likely you will find a copy of our last interview from last year, which we covered, including a UFO abduction, all kinds of things. It was super fun. Cool. And really fun. We love Gail. We feel a real connection with her. She's awesome. Check her out. Check out our podcast. And we'll see you guys Thursday. I believe this week we have Dr. Michael Lynch coming on Thursday night on a Dark Horse Paranormal podcast. And we'll see you then. Have a great week. Be safe, everybody.
Happy Saturday. Love you guys.